One DNA test. That's all it took to destroy everything I thought I knew. About my son, my wife, and myself. 17 years of fatherhood. Gone in a single line of text. You think you know who you are, your place in the world, your legacy, the love you built from nothing. But all it takes is a swab of spit and a cold string of letters to tear your identity to pieces. When my son Liam handed me the DNA results like it was no big deal, I laughed. Until I read the fine print and watched my world unravel. It started like any other Saturday morning. Coffee in hand, I was flipping through the finance section while Liam, my 17-year-old son, sat across from me at the kitchen island scrolling on his phone. Claire, my wife of nearly 20 years, was out on her usual morning walk. Liam looked up, smiling. "Hey, Dad, you remember that DNA kit I got for Christmas?" I nodded. It was some promo he jumped on, spit in a tube, find out you're 3% Viking, that sort of thing. "Yeah, why?" He spun his phone around. "I got my results back. It's kinda wild." I leaned over, expecting to see some exotic ancestry or a cousin living in New Zealand. Instead, I saw something that made my stomach lurch. Under the paternal line section, it said, "No direct match found." It didn't make sense. I blinked, looked again. Still nothing. What's this supposed to mean? Liam shrugged like it was nothing. "Dunno. I guess they couldn't match me with anyone on your side." My hands tightened around my coffee mug. "Maybe the database just doesn't have enough info yet," I offered, but my voice cracked a little. He didn't notice. He tapped his phone again. "Actually, they did match me with someone else. A guy named Greg Morrison. Says he's a 99.9% paternal match." The name hit me like a punch to the gut. Greg Morrison. I hadn't heard that name in nearly 2 decades, but I remembered him well. Claire's old friend from before we got serious. A struggling musician with a tendency to charm his way into everyone's life. And now it seemed mine. "Did your mom see this?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "Not yet. Figured you'd think it was funny." Funny. That word echoed in my head like a sick joke. When Claire came home, I didn't wait. I showed her the phone, the screen, the match. For a moment, she just stood there. No expression. Then her eyes dropped. Her lips parted like she wanted to speak, but nothing came out. "Claire," I said quietly, "tell me this isn't what it looks like." She sat down, slowly, carefully, like her legs couldn't hold the weight of the truth anymore. "It was one time," she whispered. "A mistake. It was before you and I were married. I didn't even know I was pregnant until weeks later. And by then, I didn't want to lose you. Couldn't breathe. You lied to me for 17 years. I said, the words thick in my throat. "You let me believe he was mine." "He is yours," she insisted, reaching for my hand. "You raised him. You loved him. That matters more than biology." I stood up, pushing the stool back so hard it scraped against the tile. "That's not your choice to make." I left the room before she could say another word. I didn't know where I was going. I just knew I couldn't stay there. Not in that kitchen. Not in that house. Not next to the woman who shattered everything I thought I knew. The man I thought I was? Gone in the blink of an eye. And the worst part was, the real storm hadn't even started yet. I didn't go far. I drove around for an hour, circling the same blocks in our neighborhood like I was trying to outrun a ghost. But that ghost was riding shotgun, whispering questions I didn't want to answer. Was I ever really Liam's father? Had Claire ever intended to tell me the truth? What else had she hidden? By the time I pulled into the park down by the lake, the sun had started to dip low. I sat on a bench, watching joggers pass by, families pushing strollers, kids tossing frisbees like nothing in their world had just imploded. I checked my phone. 6 missed calls. 4 texts. All from Claire. "Please come home. We need to talk. You're Liam's father in every way that matters." I didn't mean to hurt you, but she had. She did. And not just with the affair, but with the silence afterward. 17 years of it. I didn't text her back. Instead, I opened up Liam's DNA app again and stared at Greg Morrison's profile. Charming. Smiling. Hair slicked back like he thought he was still 25. Bio said independent musician, traveler, life enthusiast. I felt sick. This was the man Liam was actually connected to. A man who'd probably forgotten Claire's name after one night. And now my son was tied to him by blood. I drove back after dark. Claire was waiting by the front door, arms wrapped around herself like they were the only thing keeping her from falling apart. I didn't know, she said the moment I stepped inside. I suspected, yes, but I didn't know for sure. And once you started calling him your son, I couldn't destroy that. I looked at her like I'd never seen her before. You did destroy it. Just took 18 years. She didn't argue. Just stood there with eyes full of regret and no words to soften the blow. I need space, I told her. Her mouth trembled. Are you leaving? I don't know yet. I slept in the guest room that night. I stared at the ceiling for hours, listening to the silence of a house that suddenly didn't feel like home. I didn't hear Claire crying, but I knew she was. Part of me wanted to go to her. The other part couldn't stand the thought of being near her. The next morning, Liam came in. He didn't knock. Just walked in like nothing had happened. So, Mom told me. I sat up, expecting anger, confusion, something that matched the earthquake I felt. But Liam just shrugged. I mean, it's kind of messed up. But I guess it makes sense. Makes sense. I echoed, stunned. He leaned against the wall, arms folded, like he wasn't even talking to the man who raised him. You're still you. But I kinda wanna meet Greg. The words hit harder than any slap. Why? He shrugged again. He's my bio dad. I wanna know what he's like. Liam, I'm the one who... Yeah, you raised me. And I'm grateful, he said, but there was distance in his voice now. But maybe this changes things. I couldn't speak. Couldn't breathe. This boy, my boy, was slipping away from me with every word. Don't you want to know who you really are? He asked. And just like that, the knife twisted. I nodded, but only because I didn't trust myself to speak. Liam walked out of the room without another word, leaving me sitting on the edge of the bed, a man unmade. That night, I saw him texting, laughing at his screen. Curious, I peeked at the name. Greg Morrison. The man had already gotten his hooks in. And me? I was just a ghost with a pulse. 3 days passed. That's all it took to turn the house I built, the family I poured my soul into something foreign. I walked around like a guest, not a father. Not a husband. Just there. Breathing, eating, existing. Claire tried to keep things normal, whatever that even meant anymore. She cooked breakfast, made small talk about weather, the news, even asked if I wanted to catch a movie like none of this was happening. I gave her silence. Or short, clipped answers. Liam, though, he was different. He walked around with this new energy. Like something had been unlocked inside him. He smiled more, but not at me. He disappeared into his room for hours, music playing low, and every now and then I'd hear him laugh. And I knew he was talking to Greg. On the 4th night, I finally asked. I caught him in the kitchen, pouring himself a bowl of cereal like everything was just peachy. Liam, I said, my voice rough from too many unspoken words. He looked up. Yeah? You been talking to him? He didn't need to ask who I meant. He just nodded. Yeah, we FaceTimed last night. My chest tightened. And? He smiled like a kid opening a long-lost gift. He's cool. Chill. Plays guitar, showed me some riffs. He said he used to write songs about Mom. That last sentence hit like a slap I didn't see coming. Liam, he's not who you think he is. You don't even know him, he shot back. I know enough. I know he walked away. I know he didn't even try to be in your life. Liam's jaw tensed. Well, he's here now. Those 4 words. He's here now. As if showing up 18 years late earned him a seat at the table I built. I stepped closer. And what about me? Have you even thought about what this feels like for me? He looked at me, and for a second I saw the boy I used to hold on my shoulders, the kid who used to fall asleep during bedtime stories. But just like that, it was gone. I didn't ask to be lied to either, he said. Maybe this is something I need to figure out for myself. Then he left the room. No yelling. No slamming doors. Just gone. I stood there, staring at the kitchen counter like it might give me answers. But all I saw was the empty spot where Liam used to sit every morning. The same spot where he used to call me Dad like it meant something. Claire came in behind me. Quiet, cautious. You should let him talk to Greg, she said. If you try to control this, it'll push him further away. I turned to her, and all the grief inside me hardened into something colder. I don't need advice from the person who created this mess. She swallowed, looking down. I know. I deserve that. There was a long silence between us. Not just the silence of the moment, but the kind that had been building for years. All the things we never said, never questioned. The illusion we both wanted to believe in. I loved you, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. I trusted you. And now I can't even look at our son without seeing him wonder if someone else was supposed to be his father all along. Claire stepped forward, tears brimming in her eyes. You were his father. Maybe not by blood, but in every other way. I shook my head. That used to be enough. I'm not sure it is anymore. That night I stayed up thinking. About loyalty. About fatherhood. About this invisible thread that had tied Liam and me together for 17 years and how quickly it was unraveling. I wasn't angry at Liam. Not really. I was just scared. Because for the first time in my life, I felt what it was like to love someone so deeply and realize they might be walking away. And there wasn't a damn thing I could do to stop it. I didn't plan to look Greg up. I really didn't. But when you feel your world slipping through your fingers, when the son you raised starts drifting toward a man who didn't even know his birthday, you get desperate. So, one night while Claire was asleep and Liam was holed up in his room with his headphones on, I sat at the kitchen table with my laptop open and typed Greg Morrison into the search bar. Took about 3 seconds to find him. His Instagram was public. Of course it was. Guys like him thrive on attention. He had this whole vibe, acoustic guitars, artsy black and white shots, quotes about following your heart, photos from coffee shops and small venues, and these overly personal captions like he was trying to turn heartbreak into a brand. And there, buried about 8 posts back, was a selfie. Him and Liam. I stared at the screen, not even blinking. Liam was smiling, really smiling. That carefree, full-face kind of grin I hadn't seen in weeks. Greg had his arms slung around him like they were old friends, not strangers bound by a technicality. The caption read, "Meeting my son for the first time. Life's wild, huh? Feels like looking in a mirror I never knew I had." I closed the laptop before I did something stupid like punch the wall or throw the damn thing across the room. I couldn't sleep after that. My head was spinning with questions that had no answers. Was Liam comparing us now? Was he measuring me against Greg's laid-back charm, his guitar strings, his casual wisdom? Was I losing him? The next morning, Liam came downstairs, phone in hand. I could see the nervous energy buzzing under his skin. I invited Greg over, he said casually like he was talking about a buddy from school. Just to hang out. Thought you might want to meet him. I stared at him. Here? In this house? He nodded. Yeah. He's coming by around 2. I didn't respond. I just walked away. I didn't know what to say that wouldn't come out bitter. At 1:58, the doorbell rang. Claire answered it. I didn't move. I stood in the hallway just out of sight, trying to breathe through the storm building in my chest. Then I heard his voice. Hey, Claire. Wow, still looks the same in here. Smooth. Easy. Like he belonged. Then Liam called out. Dad, you coming? That word, Dad, hit different now. It didn't feel secure. It felt borrowed. I stepped into the living room. And there he was. Greg Morrison. He had the kind of easy confidence that came from a life free of responsibility. Wavy brown hair, just a little too long. Faded denim jacket. That smug glint in his eye like he was about to tell a joke and expected everyone to laugh. Michael, he said, stepping forward, offering his hand like we were meeting at a barbecue instead of under a cloud of betrayal. I shook it. Briefly. Firmly. No smile. I've heard a lot about you, he said. I wish I could say the same, I replied. Liam chuckled awkwardly, trying to break the tension. Come on, guys. Let's not make this weird. Too late. We sat in the living room. Claire hovered in the background like a referee waiting to call a foul. Greg leaned back, one leg crossed over the other like he had nothing to prove. Meanwhile, I sat stiff, every muscle tense. So, Greg said, looking around. You've done a great job. Raising Liam, I mean. He's a solid kid. I didn't thank him. He looked at Liam. I was telling your mom I don't want to intrude on anything. I just want to be part of your world now. If you'll have me. Part of your world. Like it was an open invitation. Like history didn't matter. Liam nodded. I want that too. I swallowed hard. Greg turned to me. Look, man. I didn't know. About Liam. Claire never told me. If I had, maybe things would have. Stop, I cut in, my voice low but firm. You don't get to rewrite the past. You weren't there. You didn't rock him to sleep. You didn't teach him to ride a bike. You didn't sit up all night helping with science projects or drive him to practice at 6 a.m. Greg looked down, nodding slowly. I kept going. You're not his father just because a test says you share DNA. Being a dad is about showing up. Every single day. You missed 17 years. Liam flinched. Claire looked away. Greg nodded again, still calm. I get that. I'm not trying to take your place. I stood up. Good. Because you can't. I walked out before I said something I'd regret. Later that night, Liam knocked on my door. I didn't bring him here to hurt you, he said quietly. I need to know where I come from. I looked at him for a long time. My son. Still my son, even if the ground beneath us was cracked. I get it, I said. But you don't have to lose one father to find another. He nodded, but I could see in his eyes he wasn't sure yet. And that's what scared me the most. The next week was a blur. Greg kept popping in and out like he was testing the water, figuring out how much space he could take before someone told him to leave. And Liam, he let him. Every time. Open arms, wide smile, like nothing about this new chapter was complicated. Claire tried to play neutral, but I could feel her watching me, waiting to see if I'd break. I almost did. Every day felt like a tug-of-war, but I was the only one pulling. Everyone else just moved on. Like it was natural to rearrange 17 years of truth. Like it was okay to see a man who hadn't paid a single bill or wiped a single tear suddenly sitting at my kitchen table, cracking jokes like he earned that seat. It boiled over one night at dinner. Claire had made Liam's favorite chicken parmesan, garlic bread, the works. I walked in from work to see Greg already at the table, laughing with Liam about some road trip story. Claire smiled at me like nothing was wrong. I froze. Stared. Didn't realize we were having guests, I said. Claire looked up, guilty? I meant to text you. It was last minute. Greg stood and patted the chair next to him. Come on, man. Plenty of food. I ignored him. Instead, I turned to Liam. Can we talk? Outside. He rolled his eyes, annoyed, but followed. Out on the porch, I didn't waste time. You need to start setting boundaries. With who? Greg. Liam frowned. Why? Because he's not your dad. Silence. Then Liam took a breath. You keep saying that like it's going to change how I feel. How you feel? I repeated. You don't even know this guy. You're basing your entire shift in identity on someone who left the picture before it even formed. He didn't leave, he didn't know. I took a step closer. You think if he knew, he would have stepped up? Look at him. Look at his life. You think the guy had it in him to raise you? Liam crossed his arms. At least he's honest. I blinked. What does that mean? He looked at me, and for the first time, there was something cold in his voice. You raised me, yeah. But you let me believe something that wasn't true, too. My breath caught. I didn't know, I said quietly. Maybe not. But you were happy not asking questions. That one cut deep. Because the truth was, maybe I had ignored things. Liam didn't look like me. Different eyes. Different smile. Claire had always chalked it up to genetics being weird. And I'd believed her. Or maybe I wanted to. You're still my son, I said, voice tight. But I'm not going to stand by while you hand over my place to someone who's never earned it. I'm not replacing you, he said. But you can't expect me to ignore where I come from. He walked back inside, leaving me alone with the night. That was the first time I realized something awful. I wasn't just losing Liam to Greg. I was losing him to what Greg represented, a fantasy. A father without rules. Without history. Without scars. I wasn't flashy. I didn't play guitar or tell wild stories. I was the guy who picked him up from practice and made sure the bills were paid. The guy who stayed. But none of that matters when you're 17 and chasing something new. The next day, I got a call from the school counselor. Apparently, Liam had listed Greg as his emergency contact. Not me. Greg. I sat in my car after that call, gripping the steering wheel like it was the only thing keeping me from shattering. Later that night, I confronted Claire. You knew he was doing this? She looked down. He told me. I didn't agree, but he said it was just in case. In case of what? I snapped. In case I disappear? In case I stop being his father. She whispered, he's confused. He's searching. I stared at her. He's not the only one. That night, I sat in the garage, surrounded by old boxes I hadn't opened in years, Liam's baby shoes, his first report card, the Father's Day card he made when he was 7 that said, "You're my hero." I held it in my hands for a long time. That word hero felt so far away now. And all I could wonder was, if biology didn't make you a father, then what did? Because I was starting to think that love alone might not be enough. A week after the emergency contact thing, I came home from work and found the house unusually quiet. Claire was in the kitchen, chopping onions, eyes red, not from the onions. From something else. What's going on? I asked. She didn't look at me. Just said, Liam's not here. Where's he? With Greg, she said. They're doing a road trip. Couple days. He left this morning. I blinked. A road trip? With a man he's known for, what, 3 weeks? Claire finally met my eyes. I tried to talk him out of it. But he's almost 18. I can't stop him. And apparently neither could I. I walked out without another word, got in the car, and just sat there with the engine running. I didn't drive anywhere. I just let the hum drown out the anger. 1,000 thoughts screamed in my head. Where were they going? What were they talking about? Did Liam pack the first aid kit I always made sure he had on long drives? Did he even say goodbye? I was spiraling and I knew it. But knowing didn't stop the feeling. 2 days passed without a word. No text. No call. The silence was surgical. When he finally came back, he waltzed into the house like it was nothing. Tossed his duffel on the couch. Hummed a tune. Said, hey, like he'd just come back from the corner store. I stood in the hallway, arms crossed. Did you enjoy your trip? He nodded. Yeah. It was great. Claire peeked in from the kitchen, tension in her eyes, then backed out like she knew this wasn't her moment. What did you two talk about? I asked. Liam grinned, and that grin twisted something inside me. Everything. Childhood, music, regrets, dreams. He told me about the time he almost made it big in Nashville. Said he thought about me all the time, even before he knew I existed. I didn't answer. He tilted his head. Why do you look mad? Because you're acting like this is normal, I said. Like you didn't disappear without a word. Like you didn't leave your family to chase a weekend fantasy. I texted Mom, he muttered. Not me. I didn't think you'd care. That sentence cracked something inside me. You didn't think I'd care? I said, stepping closer. Liam, I've built my life around you. I've sacrificed. I failed and got back up because of you. And you think I wouldn't care? He shrugged. You've been so angry lately. I didn't want to deal with it. I stared at him. This kid, this young man I raised, was slipping through my fingers like sand. And he didn't even see it. Then he reached into his bag and pulled out a small, crumpled paper. He gave me this. Said it was something I should have. I unfolded it. A paternity test. Greg Morrison. 99.999% probability. I didn't know what hurt more, the paper in my hands or the look in Liam's eyes when he gave it to me, like this piece of paper answered everything. I held it for a few seconds, then dropped it on the counter. I don't need that to know who I am, I said. And neither should you. He didn't reply. Just picked up the paper and slid it back into his bag. Later that night, Claire sat beside me on the couch. Her voice was soft, like she was afraid to set me off. He's still figuring it out. So am I said. There was a pause. He still loves you, Michael. He's just lost in the idea of this other life. This other version of himself. One with less structure. Less history. Less pain. I nodded slowly. And more freedom. Claire touched my hand. He'll come back. When the shine wears off, when reality sets in, he'll see who's been there all along. I wanted to believe her. God, I did. But love doesn't always win. And being a good man doesn't guarantee you get to keep the people you love. That night, I walked into Liam's room after he'd fallen asleep. I sat on the edge of his bed, careful not to wake him. He was curled up, breathing soft. His phone lay on the nightstand, screen lit up with a message. Greg, proud of you, son. I stared at those words until they blurred. Then I stood, kissed the top of his head like I used to when he was 5, and whispered, you were mine long before any test said otherwise. I walked out, closed the door gently behind me, and stood in the hallway feeling like a father with no proof. Just a memory. The next week passed like fog. I went to work, came home, slept on autopilot. My house, once filled with the comfortable noise of everyday life, was now thick with silence and sidelong glances. Liam barely spoke to me. Claire kept trying, but we both knew the weight between us was growing too heavy to carry in the same room. Then, one Thursday evening, I walked in and found Greg standing in my living room. Again. He and Liam were watching a basketball game like they'd been doing this for years. There was a half-eaten pizza on the coffee table, a guitar leaning against the wall, and my son laughing at something Greg just said. It felt like walking into someone else's life. Greg looked up. Hey, Mike. Hope you don't mind. I brought over that album Liam wanted. I didn't respond. Just looked at Liam. He shrugged. We were just hanging out. Thought you wouldn't be home until later. That stung more than I wanted it to. I dropped my briefcase by the door, loosened my tie, and walked to the fridge. I needed space, a breath, something to keep me from exploding. But as I pulled out a beer, I heard Greg say it. You know, Liam, I used to dream about having a son. I froze. He went on. I'd imagine what he'd be like, athletic or artistic. If he'd like my music or hate it. If he'd carry my name one day. Liam chuckled. Guess you got your wish. That did it. I walked back in, cold bottle still in my hand. My voice came out sharper than I intended. Greg, can I talk to you outside? Just for a minute. He looked surprised but nodded. Sure. We stepped onto the porch. I closed the door behind us. The cool air hit my face like a slap, welcome and sobering. I turned to him. You need to back off. He blinked. Excuse me? I've let this go too far. I've let you into my home, my life, and I've bit my tongue while you played catch-up like this is some second-chance movie montage. But this isn't a game. It's real. And you're crossing lines. He held up his hands. Hey, I'm not trying to replace you, man. I'm just... You can't replace me. I cut in. Because you were never there. You didn't hold him during night terrors. You didn't drive him to early morning practice in the snow. You didn't sit with him when he failed his math test and thought the world was ending. I didn't know, he said, voice low. Claire never told me. That might be true, I said. But you're here now, and you're pushing in like you've earned something. You haven't. He looked away, jaw tightening. I'm trying. Isn't that what matters? Trying is showing up when no one's watching. When it's hard. When they're angry at you. When they're silent. You don't get to drop in 17 years later and call yourself a father because it feels right. He didn't respond. Just stared out at the yard. Lips pressed in a hard line. Then he said, Liam reached out to me. Not the other way around. I know, I said. But you didn't have to feed the fantasy. You could have told him the truth. That you're just a man who missed his shot. His mouth opened like he wanted to argue. But he didn't. I opened the door and stepped back inside. Claire was there. Watching. She must have heard. Liam looked between us. Everything okay? I looked at him. Really looked at him. And I saw it, confusion. Loyalty being pulled in two directions. Hope and guilt warring behind his eyes. We're fine, I said. Just clearing the air. Greg stayed another 15 minutes. Then he left, saying he had an early morning gig. Liam walked him to the car. I stayed inside. Later that night, Liam knocked on my door. Why don't you like him? He asked. I stared at him. It's not about liking him. It's about protecting what's real. He sat at the foot of the bed. Feels real when I'm with him. I nodded. Yeah, I bet it does. He's a clean slate. No fights, no curfews, no bad report cards or scraped knees. Just stories and songs. He didn't say anything. You don't see the cost yet, I said quietly. But it's coming. When the shine fades and real life sets in. Responsibilities, flaws, hard conversations. He'll feel it. And so will you. Liam looked down. I added, just promise me something. Don't trade what's true for what's new. Not without thinking it through. He nodded once. Then he got up and left. Claire came in a few minutes later. Sat beside me in the dim light. You said what needed to be said, she whispered. I stared at the closed door. Doesn't mean he heard it. She laid her hand on mine. You've been the father, she said. Every day. And whether Liam sees it now or later, that truth will still be there. I looked at her. Yeah, but will I? Because I was starting to wonder if Liam would ever really come back. Not to the house, but to me. It was a quiet Saturday morning. The kind we used to spend making pancakes, arguing about which playlist to put on, and laughing over spilled batter on the stove. But this one felt like the day after a storm. The kind where everything is standing, but nothing feels steady. Liam was still asleep. Claire was out in the garden, pretending to care about the flowers but really just avoiding the silence between us. I sat in the living room with a mug of coffee, staring at a photo on the mantel. The three of us at the beach when Liam was 10. His arms thrown around my neck, salt in his hair, that missing front tooth in every smile. I remembered the way he clung to me in the waves. How he said, "You won't let me go, right?" Back then, it was such a simple answer. Never. Now, nothing felt simple. Around noon, Liam came downstairs, rubbing sleep from his eyes. He walked past me without a word, heading straight for the fridge. I waited. Then he turned, leaned against the counter and said, "Greg's moving to Seattle." I looked up. What? He got some steady gigs out there. Said it's a good move for him. Asked if I'd want to visit sometime. I took a sip of coffee. And I said maybe. The word floated there, empty but full of weight. Then he added, I told him I can't just leave everything behind. I stayed quiet. Liam walked into the living room and sat across from me. For once he looked unsure. He's cool, Dad. I'm not gonna lie about that. He's easy to talk to. And I wanted to know where I came from, you know. I nodded. I get it. He looked up, eyes glossy. But it's not the same. I didn't speak. I let him go on. I thought meeting him would give me answers. Like suddenly I'd feel more complete or something. But every time he told me a story, I kept thinking, why wasn't he there for mine? You were. All of them. He swallowed. And he's not gonna be. He's not the guy who knows I hate eggs unless the yolk is runny. He's not the guy who came to every basketball game, even when I only played 2 minutes. He's not the guy who stayed when everything got hard. My chest tightened. You are. There it was. Not a dramatic apology. Not a perfect bow on a messy situation. Just the truth. I didn't mean to push you away, Liam added. I was just mad. Confused. And I think I wanted to hurt someone. I didn't know it'd hurt me too. I put my mug down. And I said the only thing I could, I never stopped being your dad. He nodded. I know. We sat in silence for a while, and for the first time in weeks, it wasn't uncomfortable. It was healing. Later, Claire came in, wiping her hands on a towel. She looked between us, unsure. Liam smiled at her. I'm gonna head to Jake's for a bit. Be back tonight? He paused at the door. Love you guys? When the door clicked shut, Claire sat beside me. He talked to you. I nodded. And, she asked. I looked at her, long and hard. We're not okay, I said honestly. Not yet. Her eyes dropped. But that boy, he's worth fighting for. And maybe if we both still believe in the family we built, despite everything, we find our way back too. Tears welled in her eyes. I never meant to lose you. I know, I whispered. She reached for my hand. And I let her. That night, I walked past Liam's room and peeked in. He was asleep, one leg hanging off the bed, mouth slightly open like he used to when he was a kid. His phone was on the nightstand, screen lit up. A message from Greg. Seattle's always here when you're ready. I'm proud of you either way. And below that, Liam, thanks. But I think I'm right where I'm supposed to be. I closed the door, walked back to my room, and for the first time in a long while, I slept. Not like a man wondering if he still mattered, but like a father who knew he always had. Even when the blood didn't match. Even when the truth threatened to take everything. I was still his dad. And in the end, that was enough.